Alright, Lanza, so today we are going to be updating the tier list that we did start back in January of 2022. For the most part, like the last 2 months, I've been saying that I'm not going to update it till the anniversary, and I was going to say the same thing again, but you know what? When the anniversary does drop July 23rd, and we do update the tier list early August, there's going to be some really cool, exciting, and powerful characters to talk about that I only want to really talk about them. So in preparation for that, I feel like updating the tier list now and then also at the start of early July is better so we can focus on some of the newer characters, give them a time to shine and talk about how good they potentially might be, so we can just have a full focus in the August tier list focusing on the anniversary characters. So in this case, we have a new month. We received 6 new characters. How well do they rank on my tier list? One thing to keep in mind is how do we rank our characters? There's 3 factors, technically 4. The first one being their damage output and strong attacks. How good are their range? How good are their damage? Very important. The second one is the utility. So do they have stats elements? Do they have an increased chance of inflicting stats elements, for example? Do they provide a team weight boost? Stuff like that is very important. The third one is survivability. A lot of times you do want to stay at full stamina. Do you have an easy time staying at full stamina? Characters that can alter some of the harder content are going to be ranked up higher. And then the fourth one technically is usability. So that could be like, 2 killers. How usable are you in content? Can I only use you in one game mode, or can I use you basically in anything I put you against? Those are the 4 factors and how I basically rank my characters. And for those that are short on time and maybe just want to jump to a certain part of the video, I encourage you guys to check out the timeline or the description below to see when we start talking about particular attributes. Firstly, for now, we're going to start off with the heart attribute. So what exactly changed in this month's tier list? Well, for starters, I'm actually going to move up these 2 characters, that being the Wakemundo version of Stark and also Tatsuki. The main reason I'm moving them now is because they have seen more usage thanks to the new guild quest, where we do need characters with Human, Quincy, Stormritter, and Squad Zero Killer. So essentially every Tatsuki and every attribute has moved up to A tier. And then Stark is the character who I kind of put at the top of B tier, but I feel like the top of A is, a good spot for him. He has a stage in Sankamon, he's usable there, and again, once more, he's also a very solid character in Guild Quest, in that particular week of Guild Quest, right? The one where you go against Squad Zero enemies. So he's still like something amazing, but I feel like, just for there, because he has his usability now, I feel like he's gotten better over time. I should have done that a month ago when it was more relevant, but I feel like it's just worth mentioning now. In addition to that, we did also get the Noitora Resurrection, which I guess just makes him a tad bit better. That's a cheer. It really doesn't matter all too much for him, but that's basically all the changes that I made for this particular tier list. Other than that, let's talk about the newest character, that being the Heart version of Shinji, the Holified version. So the only new character for the Heart attribute this month. Where am I going to place him? Now, he's kind of a character that I, needed to question how I rank my characters, because what you will see here with these 2 particular characters, Findor and also Grimjow, is that when it comes to NAD characters, ranged characters are naturally just better. They have significantly more range. It means you can hypothetically bring them into co-op content, and that is why you're going to see a lot of times me rank ranged characters above melee characters, just like with these 2 characters, for example. However, Shinji is a character that kind of changes that for the most part. So for Shinji, I'm going to put him at the top of S. But you know what? Before you comment down below, you could make a case for him to be worse than Misaki, worse than Tokinada, potentially even worse than Gin. And you could place him here. The old me would place him here. And keep in mind, I'm still a fan of ranged characters. I definitely still prefer them. But I feel like Shinji has a lot going for him that makes him a bit more usable. And that's why I'm putting him at the top of S. So what exactly is Shinji? Well, Shinji is an attack-based character. He does damage on his normal attacks. He has a pretty high damage output with his normal attack damage, especially when he does have killer and when he's being used in Guild Quest, for example, because he does get more melee damage and more killer effect. So right now he can be used in 2 types of Guild Quest, the melee and ranged holo types of Guild Quest, more particularly the melee one, but you could hypothetically bring him into the ranged one, and at the same time you could technically bring him into every type of Guild Quest, so all 13 types of Guild Quest. Because he does have Marauder, he's always going to ignore that resistance. Because Marauder does also include Guard Break, you can use him in PVE, IT, IZ, for example, or to the point event a lot easier. You can use him there, and his main asset, if you don't know, is that SA2. So why are you using him in those types of content? Well, his SA2 is a self-surrounding vortex providing good crowd control for himself, and it's also a boost move. Now, a normal boost would increase your team's attack, focus, and defense by 33%, but because he does have the booster skill, it means you're increasing yourself and your team's attack, focus, and defense by 43%. And it's only a 10% increase, right? But it really does matter, especially when you are in a team-based game mode, where a lot of people are going to be transcended, for example. The more transcendence, the more stats you're going to be getting, and it's a massive damage damage increase, and it makes him really useful in, you know, teams type of content like epic raids, for example. He can essentially be used in any epic raid regardless of killer, and he's going to be increasing your team's damage output by quite a lot. And as well in guild quests, as I did mention, because he does have Marauder, you can essentially use him in 13 types of guild quests because he does have that SA2, increasing your main damage dealer's damage by quite a bit. And at the same time, because he does have that Vortex, he is providing some good crowd control to the point that you can basically build him with like 3 last ditch links, and he can just keep reviving, keep using that boost, and keep providing some good crowd control. So it's for those reasons I am ranking him higher than Misaki and Tokinada, but I do want to mention that in co-op content like co-op IT, co-op IZ, Misaki and Tokinada, even Gin, are more usable because they are ranged. They have an easier time tackling co-op content because they don't have to get up close and personal. But the great thing about Shinji to a certain extent is that he does have long reach. He is the first character in the game right now to have guard break and long reach, which makes him way better than any melee knight character that came out in the past because that added bit of range is just really, really powerful. It really does make a difference, especially if you are manually playing with this character. The only reason why he isn't in SS tier is mainly due to the fact that he doesn't have any great survivability for himself, you know, in terms of way to stay at full stamina. But overall, I feel like Shinji is a very, very powerful character and someone that you will definitely use a lot if you do actually pull him. Other than that, that's basically the heart tier list for this particular month. Now let's move on to the power tier list. So power didn't see basically any change whatsoever, but we do have 2 new characters, that being the Tyrant Aspiration version of Baragon and also Love. Now, I'm going to put these 2 in S tier. Now, Love is going to go right here. Now, Love, let me quickly talk about him. Good damage output. He does have a 40% Berserker, does have weakened defense, which makes him pretty good in Guild Quest Epic Raids, for example, and has really good strong attacks. SA1 is a beam, SA2 is a lunge, and his SA2 is pretty much the best strong attack free in the game, that being a distant AoE in front of him. The only thing that's stopping him from being higher is just the fact that he does inflict burn. It's not the most useful stat as moment, but it is still nice to have. He doesn't have like a super high damage output. It's literally just 40% Berserker, which is good enough in my opinion, and he does have Human Killer, which is not really that usable, basically only usable in Guild Quest. But, you know, we do have those Yakuza mobs, and I guess he is good dealing against them, so the more Human Killer content we get, the better he is going to get. But overall, just a solid character, nothing too special, but keep in mind he was designed for Arena. If this was an Arena tier, he would be one of the top characters, for example. The second character is the Tyrant Aspiration Baragon, and Baragon was a very weird character that I was either tempted to put in the A tier or S tier, so I'm kind of set him with the bottom of S. He could go up and down in the coming months. I really need to test his character more in Inheritance Trials when he does have Killer, because right now he doesn't have Killer. So Baragon is a character that has a not so good strong attack 1, which really does suck because that is the strong attack that you will be using a lot because he does have extra built-in recharge. Normal characters have 12% recharge, he has 18%, which is really cool as long as he's at full stamina. He also has 20% full stam, a 20% strong attack damage soul trait, basically taken into 40% berserker or strong attack damage, which I think is also again good enough, similar to this Rose for example. But the thing that I like about him is that he has a very high damage output in terms of yourself and your team, and a really good survivability. That's what's really kicking him up into S tier, otherwise he would be around here in A tier, for example. He has weakening and draining everything but his SA2, which is a pretty good strong attack. It's like kind of like distant AoE into a moving vortex, not tracking, so it's not as good as Aizen's, but it is still a good strong attack nonetheless, and it also is a debuff move. And with weakening and weakened defense on his Soul Bomb, in content like Epic Raids, for example, he has the potential to allow you and your team to do a lot of damage, because he just has a lot of ways to increase damage, right? Lowering their defense, weakening, potential double weakened defense at, you know, T15, for example. It just means that you can clear Epic Raids very fast with just one Baragon on your team, for example, right? I think he's a pretty solid character if you know how to use him and you use him well. Otherwise, he's basically an A tier character. Now, he does have some problems that are stopping him from being like top of S, for example, and that many, again, is his SA1. It's the one you spam the most, and it isn't the most ideal strong attack one. And at least for Guild Quest, for example, it does no damage. It's a very weird thing that Caleb have done with this character, him being a ranged character, but his SA2 is classed as a melee attack. So in Guild Quest, that SA2, which is, you know, somewhat gimmicky in the first place, isn't doing any damage. At the very least, it's still applying the debuff, but it's a weird one. He's a weird character, right? He's a very weird one. Even though he does have that, like, you know, big oversight over this character, I still think his survivability, his damage, and the potential damage output that he can increase for your team is something worth mentioning. For now, the bottom of S tier. Again, I was going to put him at the top of A, and I wanted to do a bit more testing to see how he performs in IT when he does have Killer, but I feel like he's going to be very solid, again, when he does have Killer in Inheritance Trials, because he can inflict weakening and drain. He's a safe character to to use, a bit slow, but still a very safe character nonetheless, and that's why I'm putting him in S tier. But again, kind of like an asterisk on him. He could move down, could stay the same once we do a bit more testing. Other than that, again, that's basically all the changes made for this power tier list, so feel free to screenshot if you want to. Moving on to the Mind attribute. Mind. So how did Mind fare this particular month? Now, Mind only got one new character this month, that being the holified version of Lisa, and we also got Parasol Zarplor's Resurrection. Now, it literally didn't change him. In fact, it probably made him worse. Nah, he's just still a DT character, nothing too special. But where does Lisa go? Now, Lisa... Whoa, we got our new SS tier character, boys. Finally, Daddy Ichigo has finally been power crept in my tier list, at least for the best man character in the game. Lisa is absolutely cracked, and it says a lot because she does have a pretty useless killer, that being Quincy Killer. She doesn't have Marauder, she doesn't have Sharpshooter, she doesn't have even any good ways to stay at full stamina, for example, any immunities, for example, which normally would make her like an S tier character for the most part. But good lord, is this Lisa broken? So the best way to describe this Lisa is that she is a Mind version of Yoruichi, the Safui version, right? What makes Yoruichi powerful is what makes this Lisa powerful. So Lisa, if you don't know, is now basically the hardest hitting character in the game, thanks to her 40% Berserker, with the Spiritual Pressure boost plus 80%, so when she does inflict a stat summon, she is getting that 80% stat boost to her Spiritual Pressure, and she's going to have a very easy time inflicting stat summons because she does have the increased chance of inflicting a stat summon skill against any hard enemies. So it's great in her case because she does have Quincy Killer. She's basically never gonna have Killer, but because she has that skill, it basically means that she's useful in any quest you put her against as long as there's hard enemies, which is basically the only time you're ever going to use her. And that makes her useful in a lot of different quests, but then she also provides the entire team with a 20% strong attack damage buff, and she does buff every Mind character's strong attack damage. Now, normally if you are a character that increases your team's strong attack damage, it's to a particular affiliation, and very rarely do you ever get to use that alongside other characters, because a lot of times in co-op lobbies you have a wide range of characters, like Ronkas, Spiders, Soripers, Quincy's, humans, for example, that you very rarely ever get to like buff your team. But because she has a 20% strong attack damage buff to any Mind character, basically means that in any type of quest you are going against, you just want to have one Lisa in your team because you're getting a natural 20% strong attack damage buff. At the same time, she herself is hitting very hard with the damage increase that she does have, constantly inflicting stat summons, constantly staying at that high damage threshold. She herself also does inflict Lacerate and also Paralysis, very powerful combination, and it means again in Inheritance Trials, whenever the enemies are immune to a certain stat summon, like they are right now, they are currently immune to Paralysis, because she does have 2 stat summons, she can then still inflict Lacerate. So she's a really powerful character, and when you do inflict Lacerate, you also get a 40% extra damage increase to Lacerate to enemies, and if you get her to like, T20 for example, give her 25% full stamina damage and also 40% more damage to lacerated enemies, it means that she can just hit super hard. It's absolutely crazy. She's such a really high value premium character and easily an SS tier character. Like, you can literally, regardless of killer, lads, regardless of killer, you can use her anywhere you want to. Maybe besides guild quest. You can only be used in the round 13 guild quest, the human Quincy Stamina Squad 01, where she is literally the best character. When she is a bonus and epic raid, she's going to be amazing. And basically for IT and IZ, she's literally the best character to use. The problem with someone like Ichigo and also Noel is that they don't inflict any stat ailments. But the thing with Ichigo is that he was always providing the team with a boost. But in Lisa's case, for comparison, she's always providing the team with a strong attack damage increase. She has an easy time inflicting stat ailments. She has a high damage output. This Lisa is just absolutely cracked, and she could have been more insane. Keep that in mind. Like, we can get better than this potentially for the 10th anniversary. She doesn't have any built-in immunities. She doesn't have any way to stay at full stamina. She doesn't even have a good killer, and she doesn't even have Marauder. So there are still things she's missing, but she's still an SS tier character, and that just goes to show how powerful she actually is. She doesn't even have like the most amazing strong attacks. So SA1 is an AoE in front of her, SA2 is kind of like a vacuum vortex in front, and SA3 is a above full screen because she does have Havoc. So like, she has problems, but it doesn't matter because she can just be used anywhere you want to. She's very powerful. Even though she doesn't have the most ideal strong attacks, they're not bad by any means, and that is why she's an SS tier character. Very high damage output, very high utility, and she can just be used anywhere. If you have this Lisa, you'll know what I mean. Like, I knew what I was expecting with this character when showcasing her, but even when using her, I was surprised. Like, this character is absolutely insane, and the Mind category, Dookie Mind, is kind of lackluster for the most part. They are still lacking something extra powerful that the anniversary could potentially bring us, but this Lisa is insane, and I'm really hoping in the future I can get my hands on her, which I will do because she's a premium character. That's the great thing about her too. She is quite common. You will eventually get her in the future at the very least, and sometime in the future you could potentially get a bunch of dupes of her, and she might be your go-to character. Even 1 out of 5, she's easily outclasses every character in the Mind attribute. She's absolutely insane, and that's why I ranked her where I did. So yeah, new best Mind character, boys. Very, very powerful character. So moving on to the speed attribute, what exactly changed? Well, this month we got no new speed character, so there's no one new to add, but we do have a few changes to be made. So for starters, I'm going to be putting Aaroniero behind Noel. I have tested him, this character, more so in Guild Quest, and while he is a pretty good nuke, obviously the fact that he doesn't have weakening is definitely, you know, makes him a bit lackluster compared to Noel. I wasn't expecting him to be on Noel's level of nuking, but it is just something worth mentioning. Again, as I did mention last month, it really comes down to who you prefer in terms of more utility with Noel, which allows us to have an easier time inflicting stat summons, or Aaroniero having more survivability. They're basically both almost the exact same character. Aaroniero just is able to auto some of the harder content that Noel can't. Because Noel has no way at staying at full stamina when you do take damage, it kind of does suck just a tad bit. Aaroniero has an easier time since he does have Drain and everything, and he also does have a 50% chance to dodge against 2 different affiliations. Because of that, it does allow him to auto IT with the help of one Jushiro, so he's actually a really good auto character for IT, for example, and I definitely do like that. And for that reason, last month I did put him above Noel. But again, it really comes down to personal preference. You know, if you like Noel's utility, she's better. If you like Aaroniero survivability, then he's better, right? But for Guild Quest, Noel is supreme. So for that reason, I'm just going to put her above Aaroniero. Like, she's like a 9.9 and he's like a 9.85. But then again, you can also make a case for him to be better. So it really just comes down to who you ask. I personally prefer Aaroniero. I know there's still a lot of hate for this particular character. One of the things people underestimate about this character is like how easy it is for him to inflict stat summons. Of course, Noel has an easier time inflicting stat summons, don't get me wrong, but the way these two characters are designed is that they inflict stat summons regardless of the increased chance of inflicting a stat summon. Aaroniero, if he's not one-shotting, he's pretty much inflicting a stat summon. Why do you think he has a SA2 and SA1 that has a lot of hits to it, right? If you use this character in IT where you're not one-shotting, you're inflicting stat summons very, very easily. Like, a lot of the time, this character can get that SP boost to allow him to do even more damage, right? He's a very good character, very safe character, especially if you did pick up the Senkamon Chad. He's easily the best character used for that link because he has a very easy time staying at full stamina, something that Noel does lack. But again, for Guild Quest, she is the better character, so I'm going to put her above, you know, Aaroniero. But again, as I did mention, they're interchangeable. Some would even say that Jushiro is better than Byakuya. Byakuya is still a very solid character, but as we do go into the months, I might move him down because his damage output is only 40% Berserker. It's not the greatest, and he doesn't inflict any stat summons, which really does suck. At this point in time, I feel like he is definitely being held by the fact that he does have Sharpshooter, 2 killers, and also the fact that he does have like the best strong attack 2 in the game. But as we do go by, you know, no stat summons and 40% Berserker really doesn't cut it anymore. Like, sure, he has the best SA2, but you know, SA1, SA3 isn't the most ideal. Skill-wise, he is lacking a tad bit compared to these, you know, two characters who have a much easier time clearing, you know, PVE content. I think a lot of people's opinions are being swayed just a tad bit because he's easily max transcendable for a lot of people that have been playing for the last 2 years. But Byakuya is still good. Again, you can also use him in, like, potential 13 weeks of Guild Quest, which we are demonstrating on the channel for the most part. I don't want to, you know, just hate on Byakuya, but he's still very, very good. Just, again, sometime in the future might move down a bit. Now, other than that, what's the other change to make? Spirit Side Ichigo finally got his fix. Now, if you don't know what's wrong with this character, for like the last 7 or so months, we all thought he was supposed to have an increased chance of inflicting a stat summon against power attribute enemies. He didn't have it. Instead, it was the technique enemies, which just made no sense. He was not working the way he was supposed to be working. And we've known that for a while now, so that's why I put him in A tier. Now that he's been fixed, where do I place him? In all honesty, lads, I'm going to put him top of S. I feel like his utility, survivability is very, very good. Just do understand he is a slowish character. His SA1 isn't the best, don't get me wrong, but it does hit a lot of times, and it does, you know, with his increased chance of inflicting a stat summon, with the Frenzy +2, it's almost guaranteed to inflict stat summons, which is what this character wants to do. His SA2 is a good strong attack 2. It's basically the exact same thing as Aaroniero and also Noel. It's a good strong attack. I'm not sure why people hate on it, but do understand with, again, Ichigo, there is a little condition addition that he has a very slow startup time with it. It's very weird why it is like that. It's very slow. But again, it doesn't make him bad. It does lock him in place for the most part. But again, it doesn't kill him or anything. He has a very easy time inflicting stats augment. In fact, with that increased chance, with the fact that he does have Frenzy +2, there's like a 70% chance every time you hit an enemy that you're going to be inflicting a stats augment. At the same time, you're increasing your entire team damage by 20% when inflicting a stats augment, which again, he has a very easy time doing. And he also heals the entire team by 20% when you move into another room. So he's a really good character that is, to a certain extent, underrated, but at the same time not, because he was never working as intended. With this recent fix, I feel like, yeah, he's a slow character, but he's good. He's good. I think he's definitely underrated now, if people are still trashing him. He's a really good character, and that's why I feel like he's the top of S tier, right? He has Sharpshooter too. You can use him a lot of different places. You just got to understand that he does have a somewhat slower playstyle. Other than that, that's basically the speed tier list. You know, speed is lackluster. Speed right now is the worst attribute and can definitely be improved upon, potentially, for the 7th anniversary. For the technique attribute, we got 2 new characters and 1 new resurrected character. That being this Naliel, she picked up a pretty good damage increase and also poise with Flurry. So I'm going to move her to bottom of A. Yeah, she's a pretty good upgrade with that resurrection. Really good link, really good damage output now, and also Thrive +1 makes her a lot better. She obviously is lacking guard break, which is why she isn't in, you know, S tier, for example. But yeah, very solid upgrade. That's actually made her a lot better. But now that I think about it, I might have to just move it down to like A tier. Just right there. B tier, sorry. She's a good character. More testing, I might move her up to A tier, but you know, she's good. She's good. Just not like a super good character. Other than that, though, we got 2 new characters this month, that being the arena version of Kisuke and also Geo. Now, Geo is a very solid character. I'm going to put him right here, just below Abirama. Good damage output. Has some good mobility because he does have long strike with that extra flash step. I do like his strong attacks, and he's not bad. He's actually used on a lot of different places. But again, very similar situation to, you know, Shinji, for example. He is melee based, but he doesn't, you know, compared to Shinji at least, he doesn't have a better killer. He has a worse killer. He doesn't have a boost to help the team out, and he also doesn't have long reach. So because of that, he isn't at the top of S, but he's still good enough with his damage output, with the flurry and guard break and that mobility, that it does make him pretty good. It just comes down to, are you actually going to use him? Like, he's a great character, but there's just no reason to properly use him outside of guild quests. But that doesn't really make him bad. Again, I feel like the skills that he does have does make him a, you know, a very solid S tier character. As for Kisuke, he's a character that a lot of people weren't like really impressed about. I'm putting him in S tier. I think he's actually very solid. I'm going to put him, I'm not sure if I should put him here or there. You can make a case for both of these characters. I'm going to do this because Kisuke is actually really fun to play around with. Similar to Love Situation, he doesn't have the highest damage output. It's only Berserker +40, for example, which sure isn't the greatest. It's good enough, and he does inflict status augments. He does have Lacerate. He also has a 12% chance to inflict Lacerate every 5 seconds. He has a good SA2, a good SA3, not the greatest SA1, but it isn't bad. Overall, just a solid character. Like, nothing super special, but definitely usable. I feel like the reason people weren't excited about him is because he's a technique no affiliation killer when Arbok Ichigo exists. So of course, Arbok Ichigo is the more supreme character, but it doesn't make Kisuke bad. He has long strike too. I like his mobility. He also has poise. He's a solid character, all things considered. He does have a useful killer too, so I think again he's an ST character. Just kind of sits in right in the middle. He's good enough to be used, and I think he is worth using if you like his gameplay. It's just that sure there are better characters, but that doesn't make him bad by any means, and that's really about it. But that's basically the technique attribute. There's no other changes to be made. Again, Arbok Ichigo and Retsu therefore holding the #1 spot for the technique attribute. You could make a case for either one, as we do mention every single month. Depending on how you look at it, you might prefer one or the other character. Retsu, very good survivability, amazing heals on her SA3, and she does also have weakening and drain with a very good damage output, extra built-in recharge, really good strong attacks, very, very powerful PvE content. Same goes for Ichigo, good damage output, great mobility, survivability, and strong attacks. Also has 2 killers and very good for nuking guild quests, and that's why I put him above Retsu. If he didn't have that, he'd be #2, but again, they're kind of just both #1. They're both really powerful, and again, if you want more information about these particular characters and how I feel about them, I recommend you guys check out my review for those particular characters. But with that said, that's basically this month's tier list video. I wanted this video to be only 20 minutes long. It turns out I'm recording for 44 minutes. You know, when there's a lot of characters to talk about and you spend like 7 minutes talking about them, you do end up talking a lot, and I do tend to ramble quite a bit. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. That was my opinion on these new characters. Again, very solid characters. characters, all things considered. Shinji, amazing character for the, high attribute for power. We got some decent additions, just kind of just sitting there. Nothing too special, like they're usable. Nothing super amazing, but they are good enough. Speed, it really didn't get anything, but at the very least, we did get the long-awaited fix for Spirit Society Ichigo, and then technically it got some 2 solid characters. So all things considered, a pretty good month for BBS in terms of new characters. I feel like the most exciting one definitely was the Lisa. She's a very powerful character, and she was something the mind attribute needed. And we'll see, in 2 months' time if she actually does get outclassed. With that said, lads, that was the video for today. Hope you lads did enjoy it. Let me know if you have any different opinions in the comments below. I will keep that in consideration for the next time we do update this tier list. And I'll see you lads next time. Peace.